I could sit here and wax lyrical about all the different games I played this year, trying to make you all guess what my game of the year would be, but anyone who's actually had a conversation with me or been around the channel for a while will already know. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is not only a perfected form of my favorite game of all time, but it's also been there for me during one of the most difficult and painful times in my life. Even now, I can't bring myself to finish the game. I just keep doing side quests and running around in its gorgeous environments. I've decided that I'm finally going to 100% the game. My Switch says I've played over 130 hours already, and only 70 of those hours was actual gameplay. I've spent 60 plus hours just staring at the title screen. It's just a damn good video game, and I'll get to that eventually. But for all these reasons, I'm going to be excluding Xenoblade from this discussion. But know that in my heart, this is my game of the year, and my favorite game of all time. So now that that's out of the way, we can talk about the video. I have by no means played every game that came out in 2020. There's still plenty I haven't gotten around to, like Final Fantasy VII Remake and The Last of Us Part 2, and not to mention that it's been bloody impossible to get my hands on a PS5 to play Demon's Souls. So despite joking that 2020 was going to be my year for games, with a whole lot of my favorite games getting sequels, remakes, or remasters, I ultimately didn't play as many as I wanted to. And while I have seen extensive gameplay footage for some of these games, I don't feel comfortable reviewing them. I absolutely believe you can call yourself a fan of a game even if you've only seen a Let's Play and have never played the game yourself, but I believe if I'm going to review a game, I should have somewhat extensive knowledge of all aspects of the game, especially how it feels to play. I'd also like to add that I'll only be reviewing games that came out in 2020, despite the fact that I played a lot of games from my backlog this year. Consider these mini reviews, and if I feel so inclined, I might return to these games at a later date. So let's stop listing all the needless caveats and dive into the games. But actually, before we do that, because this is my first official video of the year, I wanted to take a moment and ask everyone watching for a favor. My goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I want to be able to start making content more consistently and entertain and educate as many people as possible. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like the video. Your support these past 2 years have been wonderful, and I'd really appreciate it if y'all help me reach my goal. Now on to those video games. This year definitely started pretty slow for me. I didn't pick up any games from January to April, but then after my good friends and podcast co-hosts, Luke and John Melody bought me Animal Crossing, New Horizons, and Nintendo Online, my year began to pick up. Now, while the game hasn't been out for a full year yet, and not all of its content has been released, I do feel comfortable talking about the game in its current state. First things first, this is one of the Switch's prettiest titles. The fellers and fellas and fillies over at Nintendo really use the hardware to the best of its ability, and the game looks great. The way leaves sway in the wind, the rain falling, the changing of leaves and grass, it's all so beautiful. The way weeds got an overhaul makes them actually look extremely pretty, to the point where I have specific spots in my island where I just let them grow. The level of customizability in this game is honestly mind-boggling. Being able to play God and bend the earth and sea to your will is fucking sick, plus the crafting mechanic allows you to get furniture at your own pace instead of waiting on Timmy and Tommy. Kind of. See, the bottleneck here is getting DIY recipes, and more often than not, recipes in a bottle and the recipes I get from my villagers are all shit I already know how to make. It's incredibly rare for me to get a new DIY recipe, although I have played a decent amount and the odds are stacked against me, to be fair. My main gripe with the DIY system comes down to tools. While I understand having the flimsy tools be breakable, having all the tools be breakable is just a nuisance. Like, yeah, sure, you want to get all the mileage out of your crafting system, but I never craft tools, I just go buy them from Timmy and Tommy. It ultimately just gets on my nerves at this point. I don't typically hate breakable tools in games like in Breath of the Wild, where a weapon breaking can shift the flow of combat and make for some dynamic and interesting gameplay, but in New Horizons, it doesn't make the gameplay any more interesting, it just causes me to make an extra trip to Timmy and Tommy. But on the positive side of DIYs, I really enjoy the different aesthetics I can play around with, and the Halloween decor was on point in this game, easily one of my favorites. I like to live like a gay witch in a cabin in their woods. I'm making Hosier proud. But the game really goes out with the level of customization you have, even down to your villagers. While Nook Mile tickets are still a little RNG heavy in practice, it at least gives you some agency over your villagers. Plus, villagers will come to your campsite if you like the old school way. Speaking of the villagers though, I'm not fond of them in particular. They all have the same repeating dialogue over and over again, depending on their personality type, making villagers themselves meaningless. What's the difference between Lucky and Owl, for example? Well, other than the fact that one of them is the coolest motherfucker I've ever seen and the other is Lucky, absolutely nothing. Their dialogue is identical, At this point, villagers too are part of your island's aesthetic, much like stuffed animals. But hey, I like stuffed animals, and if you enjoy that, all the more power to you. But I can't help but wish the villagers had a little bit more spice. There's a great video by Tamahiro that I highly recommend you watch if you'd love to know more about the death of villager personalities. As of right now, New Horizons is a great game to jump in for a few hours every week, but has so far failed to get me invested in making a consistent schedule. It's a lot of fun to visit my friends' islands every couple of months and see how they've changed, but there doesn't feel like there's any real incentive to keep coming back every day, although collecting all the fossils and critters has kept me pretty busy in between island revamps. There's definitely plenty of content, and it's helped keep me sane even this deep into quarantine, not to mention it's my most played game of the year. However, I can't help but feel like I wish there was just a little more spice. It still feels a little too shallow. I think most of you will know how I feel about Doom 2016, and if you don't, I reviewed it not too long ago. I fucking loved the game, and I think it could easily be considered the greatest shooter of all time. So how does the sequel follow up this impossible legacy? In every possible way I could have hoped. The skeleton of Doom Eternal is much the same as its 2016 predecessor, which is not at all a bad thing. I don't like to assign scores to games, but I've mentioned in the past that I think Doom 2016 is a 10 out of 10 game for me, and Eternal improves upon this perfection in every possible way. Newer, faster, and more visceral glory kills, increased mobility with a double jump and dash, bigger, badder, and more bombastic guns, and a whole new slew of demons to conquer. Old demons have had their designs tweaked, some slightly, others getting a brand new overhaul, and they all look great. Demons now have unique weaknesses that make combat feel much more engaging, and new tools like the Flame Belch add some variety, even if I constantly forget that it's there. The music, as to be expected, fucking slaps. Murdering demons never sounded so good, and all the new sound effects are really well done, even the goofier ones, which I feel add more charm to the game, even if not everyone likes it. I find the cacao demons gulp when they swallow a bomb to be really funny, and the little pop from getting a headshot is a nice touch. Even the more intense sounds like the breaking of Amancubus's guns sound really fucking good. This game toes the line between goofy and gory in a really interesting way that makes it have this unique charm that 2016 didn't have. The plot of the game still isn't the main focus, but I like the emphasis on the history of the Night Sentinels. The Fortress of Doom is such a great addition with tons of little Easter eggs and nods to the series' history, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the most heartwarming aspect of the game: the tribute the game has to Markiplier's late father. I know not everyone likes Markiplier or is a fan of him, but I find him to be wholesome, heartwarming, and fun. So seeing his reaction to this and being able to see it on my own time fills my heart with such joy. I can't imagine what it's like to be Mark and to have his father immortalized for all eternity. But my sappiness aside, back to demon killing. While this game lacks the original theme of 2016 being environmental protection, I don't think that it's entirely necessary here. Eternal stands as its own title in most cases, but still can't quite be divorced from its predecessor. Much of what makes Eternal great is what has been improved from 2016, and it has improved a lot, but it doesn't ultimately shake things up too much. It's much like 2016 in the sense that it's a bunch of shooting galleries connected by some hallways. Though to be fair, sometimes those hallways are filled with muck that prevents you from jumping or dashing, and you have to move very slowly, because everyone wants to move slowly in a Doom game. And before anyone tries to bring up the secrets in this game, please don't. This game's secrets are nowhere near as in-depth as 2016's. Almost every time I got to the end of the level, I had already collected all of the secrets, without using the new fast travel function, which was a great addition, allowing players to warp back and gather secrets that they missed. While I think this is a great quality of life change, it does tend to de-emphasize multiple playthroughs. That all being said, I'm sure I'll be making some annual playthroughs of this game, though perhaps not as frequently as I did with Doom 2016, which I played every single month in 2020 since I bought it. Still, only time will tell. And for anyone who's wondering, I won't be doing a Let's Have a Chat about Doom Eternal, simply because I already have so many videos that I'm working on, as well as it being too similar to its predecessor to warrant a full review, making this mini review kind of a perfect way to express my feelings, especially when things have changed and such. Now listen, I'm not huge on battle royales, but this one had an interesting enough premise that I wanted to give it a shot, and after 15 hours I think I can say that this just isn't for me. My main issue with shooters is making sure they feel distinct from each other, otherwise it just feels like the same game with a new coat of paint. Games like Titanfall 2 avoid this snare by having incredible movement, and at first I thought Spellbreak would have great movement too, but as it turns out, I was very mistaken. Out of all of the weapons in the game, only one gives you fun movement techniques, that being the Ice Gauntlet. And before I get comments about runes having more movement options, let me talk about those. Let's see, I can either teleport, fly, jump real big, or dash. Wow. The only one that seems fun is flight, but not only is that clunky, but all the runes are invalidated by the rune that gives you extra damage and a Widowmaker ultimate. I mean, seriously, who would use anything other than that rune if it's easily a game breaker? But if I want cool movement, I have to use the Ice Gauntlets, which are fine, but has very few synergies with other gauntlets, which is actually a really cool part of this game. So I either play in an optimal way and actually stand a chance of winning, but lose the fun movement tech, or I just grab the fun shit and get obliterated into next week. And not only that, but the game's art style just feels kind of off to me. Like, I think it could be pretty, but in my case at least, everything just looks like it's out of focus. This is still the most entertaining battle royale I've played, but that doesn't automatically make it good. I was gifted this game by my sugar mommy Ishikawa after hearing nothing but good things from her, and boy, was I not disappointed. First of all, a rhythm game fused with a roguelike FPS is such a great idea, even if I play on bitch baby easy mode and have auto rhythm. It makes for such a great gameplay loop, and god damn it, is it just such a good time. Then there's the movement, naturally, which feels so good. It kind of reminds me of Doom in the sense that I feel the need to keep moving and use all my abilities to the best of my ability. Especially that sick double jump and dash. All the guns I've used so far have been a lot of fun, and the different combinations of armor pieces, offerings, guns, and ultimates make each run feel genuinely unique. I love the feeling of being completely underpowered, as well as the feeling of having a big blam gun with a fuck ton of power behind it. I haven't beaten the game yet, but I fully intend to, as it's become one of my turn-off-the-brain games while I binge a show or something. The game has a lot of layers to it, yet manages to stay fairly simple, and I really respect it for that. The art style has me a bit conflicted, though. On the one hand, it certainly has a distinct look, unlike any game I can think of off the top of my head, but on the other hand, if I play too long, I'll get a headache. The game manages to keep every run fresh and interesting, even if in simple ways, like making chests less frequent or making the world dark. Enemies don't have super predictable patterns, which makes every encounter feel pretty intense. Even several hours in, the first world still poses a challenge. I've never played any Supergiant games. In fact, I wasn't even aware of the company's existence, though I had heard about games like Bastion. But as a bisexual that grew up reading the works of Rick Riordan, after just seeing an hour of gameplay, I knew I had to play Hades. Even as I write this script, I'm itching to play Hades so badly. This game is fucking phenomenal. The fluidity and complexity of its combat has kept me hooked for hours, always making me want to do just one more run. The game feels like a combination of the brutal difficulty and speed of Bloodborne and a roguelike, which is a combination I didn't know I wanted until now. All the artwork is absolutely gorgeous, both environmental and character. I spent a lot of my first few hours playing Hades on call with my friends, and they can tell you every time I met a new character I'd go, oh shit, they're hot, or god damn, or something of that nature. And when I saw Elysium for the first time, my breath was taken away. Even 20 hours in, I was still finding new boons and dataless upgrades, making each run unique. The way the game uses prophecies to encourage you to explore different builds is brilliant and very good game design. But what set Hades apart is easily its story. This is one of the greatest video game scripts I have ever seen. Easily up there with titans like Fire Emblem Echoes. I have yet to see any repeating dialogue, which absolutely astounds me, not to mention the absolute brilliance of the lines being said. The script is heartwarming as well as heart-wrenching, and it can be absolutely hilarious. The voice actors do an incredible job bringing these characters to life, with the standout, of course, being Lord Hades himself, played by Logan Cunningham. The actual story is laid out in a really fascinating way, using the different gameplay elements to tell a story. It's an immediately relatable and understandable tale with incredible depth, and uses its position as a roguelike to lay out the breadcrumb trail for you to follow through the halls of the underworld. The best part about all of this is because I'm utterly awful at the game, I'm still rewarded at the end of each run with new bits of story and lore. But at what cost? Can lore really replace my gamer cred? Yes, it absolutely can. Please rail me, Achilles. There are a few games that have utterly consumed me the way Hades has, and I doubt I'll be putting it down anytime soon. If you've been around the channel for a while now, you'll know that I love Spelunky and Spelunky HD. My first big growth spurt came while playing Spelunky Classic on a stream on my shitty laptop one summer, and Spelunky HD became my game of choice whenever I just wanted to chill out and vibe, making it an easy stream game. I'm such a big fan of Spelunky HD, it's easily one of my favorite games of all time, and I rewatch the Spelunky documentary consistently. I'm so fascinated by the way Derek Yu designed the original game, so please don't think this is my trying to stir the pot or anything. Man, I just wasn't really feeling Spelunky 2. I think it's an incredibly well-designed game as it uses the skeleton of the games that came before it. However, I feel like the game became infinitely more complicated. I think that can be a good thing, and perhaps in time I'll come to appreciate it, but for now it just feels incredibly overwhelming to try and get into. The game also just has these little things that end up getting to me, like how you can't just skip straight past the menu by pressing X like you could in HD, or that the music, in my opinion, isn't as good. There are still a lot of quality of life changes that I really enjoy, like going to the character select screen from death, instant restart, online multiplayer, etc. And I'm excited to play more of this game, especially with friends, but I think for me, I'll always prefer the simplicity of Spelunky HD. I think both are fantastic games and definitely masterpieces in their own right, but I'm not 100% confident in my feelings towards the game yet. I've only played about 90 hours of Spelunky 2 versus my 200 hours in Spelunky HD, so I think in time I might come to appreciate the wider variety that Spelunky 2 offers, but at the same time, I can't imagine getting to places like the Cosmic Ocean. It can feel so overwhelming and complicated. Sometimes I just want a simple turn-your-brain-off platformer. So while I believe Spelunky 2 is an incredible game, I don't know if it'll have the same effect for me that Spelunky HD had. I know that for a lot of people, my words will fall upon deaf ears, but for those willing to listen, I've got some shit to say about Nintendo's business practices for the past year. Fuck this limited release bullshit. Nintendo stands to gain nothing from it, especially with titles like Shadow Dragon, which is overpriced. The only way I'd recommend someone get Shadow Dragon is if they bought the special edition, and even then I'd only recommend that to Fire Emblem fans. A re-release of an NES game for $5 is bullshit, especially considering that I'm already paying to get NES games with my shitty, broken online service. Shadow Dragon should have been released for free on the NES online service and had its special edition for $30. I'm honestly insulted that Nintendo is shoveling this horseshit back to Fire Emblem fans, instead of either remaking Shadow Dragon again or porting the DS remake. As neat as having the original Fire Emblem is, I feel no reason to play it because it's easily outclassed by every modern Fire Emblem game. There's a reason we don't see other big RPGs on the NES getting re-released, especially not for $5. And the fact that this is a digital-only title and it's limited release? Fuck that. I love getting physical games whenever I can because I believe in the preservation of games. And I don't own a lot of digital games, and in fact, no one owns digital games. You own a fucking license to play them that Nintendo could revoke whenever they feel like being extra shitty. Speaking of Nintendo being extra shitty, fuck this Mario celebration too. Why is 3D All-Stars $60? It doesn't have Galaxies 2, nor does it support 1080p and 60 frames per second, which is honestly laughable, especially for games like Mario 64. Not to mention, they removed all the cool speed tech from the game. If this were a $30 bundle, I'd say it's probably worth it if you don't already have those games. But for $30? Fuck that. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, its DLC was $40, even its physical release, and that was the size of a full modern game. Instead, for Mario, you get 3 ROMs and a shitty music player that you'll never use. The fact that Nintendo is so disconnected from their community is so upsetting, and even worse is that community eats up all the shit they've had shoveled onto their plates. 3D All-Stars was one of the best-selling games of this year, despite the outcry. But then again, that shouldn't even surprise me, considering this is the fan base that keeps buying Pokemon games after getting outraged on Twitter. It's not my place to talk about how Melee and Splatoon have been affected by Nintendo's decisions, but I'll say that we as a community are not showing any background. And keep in mind, stuff like being excited for Sephiroth or new Animal Crossing updates isn't an issue. That has nothing to do with the decisions Nintendo makes, especially considering that most people already bought the Fighter Pass or Animal Crossing. I mean, we have to actually keep up this energy when Nintendo is doing shitty things. Express your distaste in a tasteful way. Don't spam hashtag free Melee on a tweet about someone talking about how Mario connects them to their father who's passed away. There's a time and a place. We let this shit slide because we love the games Nintendo makes, but we need to stop letting this multi-billion-dollar corporation have a tight grip over us. So no, Nintendo won't be winning my Game of the Year award, but will instead be winning my You Just Keep Fucking Up award. So, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. What is my Game of the Year, not including Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition? The answer? Simple. Super Mario 2, baby! But for real, my Game of the Year is Hades. I don't think this game could come in and consume me the way it has, but I'm glad it did, because it's one of the best game experiences I've ever had. I encourage everyone to pick up Hades and give it a shot, not only to have an absolute blast, but to also support a smaller game studio, one that actively listens to its fucking community. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. This video has been a lot of fun to make, and I've basically been working on it in the background for like the past month. A little behind the scenes curtains. I played all of these games up until except for Doom Eternal in 2020. But then I bought Doom Eternal. Well, so Doom Eternal wasn't going to be on this thing, but then I bought Doom Eternal during the Steam winter sale. So basically, I played through all these other games, wrote up the entire script while I was still on holiday, and then when I got back, first thing I did was install Doom Eternal, and I've just been playing it nonstop. And so after getting through most of it, I decided, like, yeah, okay, I can write the script for this portion now. But yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. I really, really would appreciate it if you guys would hit the subscribe button. I really do want to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and I think we can do it. I really want to start doing YouTube, getting some money for this so that I can support the channel and continue supporting myself while I'm off at school. So yeah, I'm trying new stuff. I'm trying new stuff, and I'm gonna just put a lot more effort into the content. So again, thank you all so much for your support these past 2 years, and I hope that I can spend even more time with you guys. So yeah, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, tell your friends, share the video. I feel like people don't ask people to share the video enough, but like if you got people who disagree with Game of the Year with me, send them this video. If you disagree, talk in the comments. If you agree, talk in the comments. Tell me shit. What are you feeling? Do you think Doom Eternal got robbed? Please don't tell me about how you feel about The Last of Us Part 2. I'll probably just delete your comment. I really don't care. Also, please don't spoil that for me. I don't have a PlayStation yet, so I gotta get that, but I have the game. It's a whole mess, and I just basically, what I wanted to say is thank you all so much, and please subscribe and all that fun stuff, because really, I like talking about video games.